Yeah, just a minute. I was just starting with the recording. That is why it took a little longer to. And then what happens now? In the middle, if I had to unmute and speak, then this I have to retype everything. So I couldn't speak. Sorry for that. So yeah, go on, go on.
So, 2 anguished
Yeah.
weeks later, the youth paid another visit to the philosopher's study. What is freedom? Why can't people be free? Why can't I be free? What is the true nature of whatever it is that is constraining me? The assignment he had been given was weighing heavily on him, but it seemed impossible to find a convincing answer. The more he thought about it, the more the youth began to notice his own lack of freedom. Deny the desire for recognition.
So you said that today we would discuss freedom.
Yes, did you have any time to think about what freedom is?
Yes, actually, I thought about it at great length.
And did you arrive at any conclusions?
Well, I couldn't find any answers, but I did find this. It's not my own idea, but something I came across at the library. A line from a novel by Dostoevsky. Money is coined freedom. What do you think? Isn't coined freedom a rather refreshing term? But seriously, I was fascinated to find this one line that drove right to the heart of these things called money.
I see. Certainly, if one were to speak in a very general sense of the true nature of that which is brought about by which is brought about by money, one might say that it's freedom. It is an astute observation, to be sure, but you wouldn't go so far as to say that freedom therefore is money, would you?
It's exactly as you say. There probably is freedom that can be gained by the way of money. And I'm sure that freedom is greater than we imagine because in reality, all the necessities of life are dealt with through financial transactions. Does it follow? Then that is one passage possesses great wealth. One can be free. I don't believe that is the case. I would certainly like to believe that it is not the case. And human values and human happiness cannot be bought with money.
Well, say for the moment that you have obtained financial freedom, and then, though you have gained great wealth, you have not found happiness. At that time, what problems and privations would remain for you?
It would be the interpersonal relationship you have been mentioning. I have thought deeply about this matter. For instance, you might be blessed by great wealth, but not have anyone who loves you. You have no comrades whom you could call friends, and you are not liked by anyone. This is a great misfortune. Another thing I can't get out of my head is the word bonds. Every one of us is tangled up and writhing in this string that we call bonds. Having to be attached to a person you don't even care for example, or to always watch out for your awful boss mood swings. Imagine if you could be released from such petty interpersonal relationships, how easy things would be. But no one can really do such a thing. Wherever we go, we are surrounded by other people, and we are social individuals who exist in our relations to other people. No matter what we do, we cannot escape the strong rope of our interpersonal relationship. I see now that Elder Adler's statement. All problems are interpersonal relationship problems. It's a great insight.
This is a crucial point. Let's dig a little deeper. What it is about our interpersonal relationships that is robbing us of our freedom.
Last time you spoke about whether one thinks of other people as enemy or comrades. You said that if one becomes able to see others as one's comrades, one's way of looking at the world should change as well. That certainly makes sense. I felt quite convinced the other day when I left here. But then what happened? I gave the matter some careful thoughts and I noticed that there are aspects of interpersonal relationships that can't be completely explained.
Like what?
The most obvious one is the existence of parents. I could never think of parents as enemies. During my childhood, especially, they were my greatest guardians who raised and protected me. In that regard, I'm sincerely grateful. Still, my parents were strict people. I told you about this last time that they always compared me to my older brother and refused to recognize me. And they have constantly made comments about my life, saying I should study more, not make friends with people like this or that, get into this university at the very least, get this kind of job, and so on. Their demands put a lot of pressure on me and were certainly bonds.
Then what did you do? Sorry. What did you end up doing?
It seems to me that until started university, I was never able to ignore my parents' intentions. I was anxious, which was unpleasant. But the fact of the matter is that my VCs always seemed to end up overlapping with my parents. My place of work, I choose myself, however.
Now that you mention it, I haven't heard about that yet. What kind of work do you do?
I am now working as a librarian at University Library. My parents wanted me to take on my father's printing plant, like what my brother did. Because of this, ever since I started my current job, our relationship has been somewhat strained. If they weren't my parents and instead were enemy like pre- presence is my life, I probably wouldn't have minded at all. Because no matter how much they might have tried to interfere, I could always just ignore them. But as I have said, parents to me are not enemies. Whether or not they are comrades is another matter. But at the very least, they are not what I would call enemies. It's a relationship that is much too close to be able to just ignore their intentions.
When you decided which university you you would go to in line with your parents' wishes. What sort of emotions did you feel with regard to your parents?
It's complicated. I did have feelings of resentment. But on the other hand, there was this sense of relief too. You know, that I could get them to recognize me if I went to that school.
You could get them to recognize you.
Come on, let's stop the roundabout leading questions. I'm sure you know what I'm referring to. Is this so called desire for recognition? It's interpersonal relationship problems in a nutshell. We human beings live in a constant need of recognition from others. It is precisely because the other person is not an abhorrent enemy that one wants recognition from him, isn't it? So, yes, that's right. I wanted to be recognized by my parents.
I see. Let's talk about one of the major problems of Adlerian psychology regarding this matter. Algerian psychology denies the need to seek recognition from others.
It denies the desire for recognition.
There is no need to recognize by others. Actually, one must not seek recognition. The point cannot be overstated.
No way. Isn't desire for recognition a truly universal desire that motivates all human beings?
Okay, there was a the particular chapter was ended with a good question. I think most of us looking for recognitions, appreciations. Maybe I think this chapter going forward will go deep dive. Anyone would
Yeah.
be interested to continue?
Yes, I may now.
Someone,
Yeah. Viren,
Viren,
you
you
want
want
to
to
continue
continue?
or you?
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
then so Viren can take up here. Go on.
So I'll be taking the part of philosopher, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, okay. Do not live to satisfy the expectations of others. Being recognized by others is certainly something to be happy about, but it would be wrong to say that being recognized is absolutely necessary. For what does one seek recognition in the first place? Or to put it more skillfully, why does one want to be praised by others?
It's simple. It's through being recognized by others that each of us can truly feel we have value. It is through recognition from others that one becomes able to wipe away one's feelings of inferiority. One learns to have confidence in oneself. Yes, it's an issue of value. I think you mentioned it last time that the feeling of inferiority is an issue of the value judgment. It's because I could never get recognition from my parents that I have lived a life trained by feelings of inferiority.
Now let's consider a familiar setting. For example, let's say you have been picking up litter around your workplace. The thing is, no one seems to notice at all. Or if they do, no one has given you any appreciation for what you have done, or even said a single word of thanks. Well, will you keep on picking up litter from now on?
That's a difficult situation. I suppose that if no one appreciates what I'm doing, I might stop.
Why?
Picking up litter is for everyone. If I'm rolling up my sleeves and getting it done, but I don't get a word of thanks, I guess I would probably lose my motivation.
This is the danger of the desire for recognition. Why is it that people seek recognition from others? In many cases, it is due to the influence of reward and punishment education.
Reward and punishment education.
Yeah, if one takes appropriate action, one receives praise. If one takes inappropriate action, one receives punishment. Adler was very critical of education by reward and punishment. It leads to mistaken lifestyles in which people think if no one is going to praise me, I won't take appropriate action. And if no one is going to punish me, I will engage in inappropriate actions too. You already have the goal of wanting to be praised when you start picking up litter. And if you are not praised by anyone, you will either be indignant or decide that you will never do such a thing again. Clearly, there is something wrong with this situation.
No, I wish you wouldn't trivialize things. I'm not arguing about education. Wanting to be recognized by people you like, to be accepted by people close to you, is a normal desire.
You are badly mistaken. Look, we are not living to satisfy other people's expectations.
What do you mean?
You are not living to satisfy other people's expectations, and neither am I. It is not necessary to satisfy other people's expectations.
That is such a self serving argument. Are you saying one should think only about oneself and live self righteously?
In the teachings of Judaism, one finds a view that goes something like this. If you are not living your life for yourself, then who is going to live it for you? You are living only your own life. When it comes to who you are living it for, of course it is you. And then, if you are not living your life for yourself, who could there be to live it instead of you? Ultimately, we live thinking about I. There is no reason that we must not think that way.
So you are afflicted by the poison of nihilism. After all, you say that ultimately we live thinking about I, and that's okay. What a wretched way of thinking.
It is not nihilism at all. Rather, it is the opposite. When one seeks recognition from others and concerns oneself only with how one is judged by others, in the end, one is living other people's lives.
What does that mean?
Wishing so hard to be recognized will lead to a life of following expectations held by other people who want you to be this kind of person. In other words, you throw away who you really are and live other people's lives. And please remember this, if you are not living to satisfy other people's expectations, it follows that other people are not living to satisfy your expectations. Someone might not act the way you want him to, but it doesn't do to get angry. That is only natural.
No, it's not. That is an argument that overturns our society from its very foundation. Look, we have the desire for recognition, but in order to receive recognition from others, first we have to recognize others ourselves. It is because one recognizes other people and other system of values that one is recognized by others. It is through this relationship of mutual recognition that our very society is built. Your argument is an abhorrent, dangerous way of thinking, which will drive human beings into isolation and lead to conflict. It's a diabolical solicitation to needlessly stir up distrust and doubt.
Haha, you certainly have an interesting vocabulary. There is no need to raise your voice. Let's think about this together. One has to get recognition or one will suffer. If one doesn't get recognition from others and from one's parents, one won't have confidence. Can such a life be healthy? So one could think God is watching. So accumulate good deeds. But that and the nihilist view that there is no God, so all evil deeds are permitted, are two sides of the same coin. Even supposing that God did not exist and that we could not gain recognition from God, we would still have to live this life. Indeed, it is in order to overcome the nihilism of godless world that it is necessary to deny recognition from other people.
I don't care for all this talk about God. Think more straightforwardly and more plainly about the mentality of real everyday people. What about the desire to be recognized socially? For example, why does a person want to climb the corporate ladder? Why does a person seek status and fame? It's the wish to be recognized as somebody important by society as a whole. It's the desire for recognition.
Then, if you get that recognition, would you say that you have really found happiness? Do people have who have established their social status truly feel happy?
No, but that's
When trying to be recognized by others, almost all people treat satisfying other people's expectations as the means to that end, and that it is in accordance with the stream of thought of a reward and punishment education. that says one will be praised if one takes appropriate action. If, for example, the main point of your job turns out to be satisfying other people's expectations, then that job is going to be very hard on you because you will always be worried about other people looking at you and fear their judgment, and you are repressing your I-ness. It might come as a surprise to you, but almost none of my clients who come for counseling are selfish people. Rather, they are suffering trying to meet the expectations of other people, the expectations of their parents and teachers. So, in a good way, they can't behave in a self centered fashion.
So I should be selfish.
Do not behave without regard for others. To understand this, it is necessary to understand the idea in Adlerian psychology known as separation of tasks.
Separation of task. That's a new term. Let's hear about it. The youth's irritation had reached its peak. Deny the desire for recognition. Don't satisfy other people's expectation. Live in a more self-centered way. What on earth was this philosopher saying? Isn't the desire for recognition itself people's greatest motivator for associating with each other and going about the formation of society? The youth wondered, what if this separation of task idea doesn't win me over? I won't be able to accept this man, or Adler for that matter, for the rest of my life. How to
How?
separate tasks?
Yes. Say there is a child who has a hard time studying. He doesn't pay attention in class, doesn't do his homework, and even leaves his books at school. Now, what would you do if you were his father?
Well, of course, I would try everything I could think of to get him to apply himself. I would hire tutors and make him go to a study center. Even if I had to pull him by the car to get, by the ear to get him there, I would say that's a parent's duty. And that's actually how I was raised myself. I wasn't allowed to eat dinner until the day's homework was done.
Then let me ask another question. Did you learn to enjoy studying as a result of being made to do it in such a heavy handed manner?
Unfortunately, I did not. I just took care of my studies for school and for exams in a routine way.
I see. All right. I will talk about this from the basic stance of Adlerian psychology. When one is confronted with the task of studying, for instance, in Adlerian psychology, we consider it from the perspective of whose task is this?
Whose task?
Whether the child studies or not, whether he goes out and plays with his friends or not. Essentially, this is the child's task, not the parent's task.
Do you mean that it is something the child is supposed to do?
Simply put, yes. There would be no point if the parents studied instead of the child, would there?
Well, no, there wouldn't.
Studying is the child's task. A parent's handling of that by commanding the child to study is in effect an act of intruding on another person's task. One is unlikely to avert a collision in this way. We need to think with the perspective of whose task is this and continually separate one's own tasks from the other people's tasks.
How does one go about separating them?
One does not intrude on other people's tasks. That's all.
That's all.
In general, all interpersonal relationship troubles are caused by intruding on other people's tasks or having one's own tasks intruded on. Carrying out the separation of tasks is enough to change one's interpersonal relationships dramatically.
I don't really get it. In the first place, how can you tell whose task it is? From my point of view, realistically speaking, getting one's child to study is the duty of parents because almost no child studies just out of enjoyment. And after all is said and done, the parents is the child's guardian.
There is a simple way to tell whose task it is. Think who ultimately is going to receive the result brought about by the choice that is made. When the child has made the choice of not studying, ultimately the result of that decision, not being able to keep up in class or to get into preferred school, for instance, doesn't have to be received by the parents. Clearly, it is the child who has to receive it. In other words, studying is the child's task.
No, no, you are completely wrong. The parent who is more experienced in life and also act as a guardian has the responsibility to urge the child to study so much situation do not arise. This is something done for the good of the child and it's not an act of intruding. While studying may be the child's task, getting the child to study is the parent's task.
It's true that one often hears parents today using the phrase, it is for your own good, but they are clearly doing so in order to fulfill their own goals, which could be their appearance in the eyes of society, their needs to put on airs, or their desires for control, for example. In other words, it is not for your own good, but for the parents. And it is because the child senses this deception that he rebels.
So, even if the child hasn't been studying at all, you are saying that since it's his task, I should just let him be.
One has to pay attention. Adlerian psychology does not recommend the non interference approach. Non interference is the attitude of not knowing and not even being interested in knowing what the child is doing. Instead, it is by knowing what the child is doing that one protects him. If it is studying that is the issue, one tells the child that that is his task and one lets him know that one is ready to assist him whenever he has the urge to study. But one must not intrude on the child's task. When no requests are being made, it doesn't do to meddle in things.
That does it that does this go beyond parent-child relationship?
Yes, of course. In Adlerian psychology counseling, for instance, we do not think of the clients changing or not changing as the task of the counselor.
What are you saying here?
As a result of having received counseling, what kind of resolution does the client make to change his lifestyle or not? This is the client's task, and the counselor cannot intervene.
No way. I can't accept such an irresponsible attitude.
Naturally, one gives all the assistance one possibly can. But beyond that, one does not intrude. Remember the old saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. Please think of counseling and all other assistance provided to other people in Adlerian psychology as having that kind of stance. Forcing change while ignoring the person's intentions will only lead to an intense reaction.
The counselor does not change the client's life.
You are the only one who can change yourself.
Shall we
This was
stop here? No, no, I'm just asking. Shall we stop here for today and discuss? Do we want to read a little further? I'll just check how big it is, no? Or if it is the last part. No, it's okay. We can, yeah, just read this part and then stop. Yeah, it's very small.
so.
Go on, go
Anyone
on.
wants to continue from here? Otherwise, I am okay.
Yeah, anyone wants to read?
Yeah, I'll read. Am I audible?
Yeah, you will be reading the youth part, na, Vandana?
Okay,
Yes.
okay, Mansi.
Yeah, and Suman, you'll continue with the philosopher? Hmm.
Yeah, I will. Yeah.
Okay, okay, go on, go on.
Okay. Then what about with the shut-ins, for example? I mean, with someone like my friend, even then, would you say it's the separation of tasks? Don't intervene, and it has no connection to the parents.
Can he break out of the shut in situation or not? Or in what way can he break out of it? In principle, this is a task that the person has to resolve himself. It is not for the parents to intervene. Nevertheless, as they are not complete strangers, some form of assistance is probably needed. At this point, the most important thing is whether the child feels he can consult frankly with his parents when he is experiencing a dilemma, and whether they have been building enough of a trust relationship on a regular basis.
Then, suppose your own child has shut himself in. What would you do? Please answer. This is not a philosopher, but as a parent.
First, I myself would think this is the child's task. I would not try to I would try not to intervene in his shut in situation, and I would refrain from focusing too much attention on it. Then I would send a message to him to the effect that I am ready to assist him whenever he is in need. In that way, the child, having sensed a change in his parent, will have no choice but to make it his own task to think about what he should do. He will probably come and ask for assistance, and he will probably try to work some things out on his own.
Could you really marriage to be so cut and dried if it were your own child who would become a shut-in?
A parent suffering over the relationship with his or her child will tend to think, my child is my life. In other words, the parent is talking on the child's task as his or her own and is no longer able to think about anything but the child. When at the last the parent notices it, the I is already gone from his or her life. However, no matter how much of the burden of the child tasks one carries, the child is still an independent individual. Children do not become what their parents want them to become. In their choices of university, place of employment, and partner in marriage, and even in the everyday subtleties of speech and conduct, they do not act according to their parents' wishes. Naturally, the parents will worry about them and probably want to intervene at times. But as I said earlier, other people are not living to satisfy your expectations. Though the child is one's own, he or she is not living to satisfy one's expectations as a parent.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Actually, with families, there
No,
is
no, I
less dis.
think you should with
Uh,
the youth part, the first
I'm
line. So
sorry.
you
So actually, my daughter came, so I was distracted.
no
So
problem.
you have to, draw the line even with family.
Actually, with families, there is less distance, so it is all the more necessary to consciously separate the tasks.
That doesn't make sense. On one hand, you are talking about love, and on the other hand, you are denying it. If you draw the line between yourself and other people that way, you won't be able to believe in anyone anymore.
Look, the act of believing is also the separation of tasks. You believe in your partner, that is your task. But how that person acts with regard to your expectations and trust is other people's task. When you push your wishes without having drawn that line, before you know it you are engaging in stalker like intervention. Suppose your partner did not act as you had wished. Would you still be able to believe in that person? Would you still be able to love that person? The task of love that Adler speaks of is composed of such questions.
This that's difficult. That's very difficult.
Of course it is, but think about it this way: intervening in other people's tasks and taking on other people's tasks turn one's life into something heavy and full of hardship. If you are leading a life of worry and suffering, which stems from interpersonal relationships, learn the boundary of from here on, that is not my task, and discard other people's tasks. That is the first step toward lightening the load and making life simpler.
Shall I continue?
I
No, no,
think
no.
we
Let's
will be
let's
stopping here.
No,
Yeah.
no, we'll stop here.
stop
Right.
because we'll have some time for discussion also, no? So yeah, okay. So we are all open for discussion. Anyone who would want to share something, please go ahead. I was surprised at his mention that he's a librarian and seeing Vandana join us today.
Yes, yes, I land in the correct place where I am needed. Yeah, Mansi.
Yeah,
Yes, yes,
even I
yes.
felt so. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So even now, me leaving the job is disliked by mommy. So yes. So it's always whether you are 40, 45, so the parents try to do that. And some Rumi or someone told the child comes from you but doesn't come for you. So I believe strongly on that. It should be left to their choice because ultimately, if you join the course of your choice, but the child has to study. So I think that way. And now coming to family and drawing boundaries, it's like living in attachment in a detached way. So it's very difficult. But I think 3 to 4 years back, I started where I started leaving things through my family members. Earlier, I was like too much what you call tightly held to all the things tasks. Slowly, slowly, I started like let go, and then I made my life lighter and simpler. So yeah, things should be left. जिसका काम है उसे करना है हमें हर एक में टांग नहीं अड़कना. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, very true. I think it's a learning for all of us, right? Like we all learn first from attachment to detachment. Sometimes we over attach and then we learn that this is not going to serve us and we just learn to get detached slowly and steadily. And eventually I feel we learn the balance. So yeah, very true.
Yes,
A very
yes,
deep
yes,
topic today, right? Like actually about this parent child, and I feel it becomes so sensitive when it comes to children, and
Yeah.
especially parents. We want to be the director of so many things in their life, like assuming that they don't understand, and it's our responsibility. And there is always, I feel, there is a jumbling around this all the time in our thoughts, so whose responsibility it is and all of that together. So he really touched that sensitive part today. So yeah, very very well, this thing, nice reading. Yeah, feel free to share your insights or anything.
And it's very profound that how the child senses that the parent is taking it his own task. That's why he makes the boundary line that it is parent's task. That's why he doesn't take the burden of study.
yes, yes. The thing is, it's like taking responsibility. Being in academics for 18 years, what I observed is I worked as teacher also here and there. And when I used to attend those parents' meeting, what I observed is even sometimes the child is not what you call given the choice to talk. They are so dominating, and they just keep their mouth shut. So I am talking, no, you wait. So the child is devoid of expressing freely. So I think sometimes it's so continuous from the childhood that the child is even not aware that my rights are being hindered or taken away or I am dominated. So it's like a natural process it goes. So till the child becomes aware on his or her own this thing, so things will not work out, I feel, because it's if you just tell them ki, I will not micromanage you, you need to take the charge. And just slowly, slowly, I know it won't happen like a magic, but slowly and steadily if you say Then your day-to-day things gets eased out. And life becomes simpler, right? When the child takes his or her own responsibilities. So, yes, thank you.
Yeah, wow, wonderful, Shari. Yes, even I have seen, like, sometimes I feel people are so like I have seen in groups, there are parents group na, where for the same class we have created this groups for convenience of sharing notes and all of that. Like normally every school and this classes have that, but people have it. So people are so concerned about that one mark that teacher has not given, or galti se ek mark kam de diya या जो भी है. And I was and these are second standard students now, and we were like, oh my god. And they're so I wonder sometimes, like, people are still so concerned about marks and things like that, to such an extent. So yeah, and many places people are very yeah, and he covered it today, right? In the reading also, he talked about it that mostly you're doing we are doing it for our impression in the society, and there are many other, or maybe to just seek control or things like that. So it's just if we are mindful about it, maybe we can understand better. And I love this one. I always mention her, that her name is Shefali Sabari, I guess. I don't know the surname, how it is really pronounced properly. But she talks more about conscious parenting. And she's very beautiful. She talks about spirituality and parenting together, and that is something very nice, the way she takes it. And she says that children come in our life to in fact teach us. So they are as souls, they are there to elevate us as a person, as an individual, so that's how the soul comes in our life. And if you see, we learn from them. They don't learn from us actually, but we think otherwise. So she talks more on these grounds very nicely. She explains. I'll just try sharing some of her video if I can find something. Yeah. Aarti has raised her hand. Aarti, please share.
Thank you, Mansi. And I agree with Mrs. or Miss Shefali you are talking about, because this is true that the soul is coming here to teach us, not to learn from us. And they are also related to our past life karmas if we talk spiritually. And as Vandana was sharing, I remembered that yesterday only a lady told me that she was witnessing, not being, she was witnessing domestic violence, unfamiliar environment at home, means negative environment, unhappy things happening in the house, people accusing each other, fighting and everything. And she was taking it as normal because she was not aware, as she was Vandana was saying that uh, the children are not even aware that their rights are being taken away. Similarly, she was not even aware that she was facing domestic abuse or domestic violence here, and she's witnessing this activity which is not normal. She was perceiving it as normal, and then when she came out in the outer world, she came to know that how people live together, how there is what is the definition of a happy family. And then she realized that this is something happening unfair in my family, and my mother is suffering. Then she started taking stand for her, and she also became aware about how people are uh, acting very diplomatically to live their life smoothly and not even protesting against the person who was creating all this chaos. So this is how children are not aware, and she realized it very late in her later teenage. So she still feels guilty for that I was not available to my mother when she needed me the most. So this is how it impacts the adult life too.
Yeah, very much. Yeah, you touched a very uh yeah, a very important point. Very true. Because yeah, we are mostly unaware, right? Like because as kids we don't know what's right, wrong, and we just see what the conditioning is. So one thing what I remember today, like while we were reading
Mansi,
about this,
uh,
yeah,
I I will speak after you. Just finish what you are sharing.
No, no, you continue. I can add later. I did not start also, so you please continue if you want to add
Okay.
something.
One more thing, one more incident of somebody's life I want to share. This child was a teenager when she realized, and he also, they are brother and sister. They realized that their parents are not being very kind or generous, and they are little toxic. And means they also became aware about how an ideal family is. So they were surprised when people used to love their children unconditionally and call them with sweet names and asking them how abouts, whereabouts, and what you are doing, like a small kid. And they were treated very differently with their parents, by their parents, and with the situations they are facing. Those teenagers were now feeling insecure, and they were not able to even digest these things. They were feeling like, aisa hota hai kya? Is it for true? Or if
Yeah.
their parents are real, if they are the people like this, ऐसे parents होते हैं क्या? और ऐसा होना चाहिए क्या? इनके पेरेंट्स इनको बिगाड़ रहे हैं, मीन्स दे वर हैविंग दिस कंडीशनिंग कि इफ somebody is loving their children, they are spoiling them.
Yeah, because we only see the world as we perceive it, right? So from our experience. So yeah, this is very, very beautiful because yes, it happens, right? And that's why I love the story that Sadhguru says, like it's a little different from our reading today, but I'll just add where he shared that like he blesses that one of the influencer I mentioned this, where he blesses her, let your dreams not come true because let you live the life that you are meant to live and you go beyond your dreams. That is what the blessing he gives her because we are only able to even goals what we set, right, are only from what we understand. Like for example, if you have only seen a house of like 4 bhk or 5 bhk or 3 bhk or whatever, you will only visualize that as the best this thing for your like would be house or whatever. But if you're not seeing things beyond that, you'll never want that maybe. So
Exactly.
so yeah, that's very beautiful point. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. One more story I just wanted to add about Sadhguru, like not story, but actually this relevance to what we read today. So he mentioned in one of his talks or video, I had listened to this, that where he mentioned that actually on a spiritual level also, up to 6 years of age, a child is a separate. The child is very connected with their soul as such, and they do not so the parent child bond, he calls it runanubandha, is not very very strong at that age because it's the child is not really dependent on the parent. They are very independent. That's how the children are very like spontaneous and all of that, right? But after 6 years to 21 years of age, that runanubandha is very strong, he says. So that's why the attachment is very strong. But if you're getting attached to a child even after 21 years, then he says then that's not right because after 21 years of age, that runanubandha again changes, like it shifts, and the child again becomes independent as an individual. On a spiritual level, he was talking about. So many a times when we find it's when people are attached after 21 years to their children and thinking a lot about what will happen about in their careers or whatever things they're worried about some things. Actually, it's not right, he said. You need to be a little, you need to learn to get detached after 20, after your child turns 21 years of age, because actually, on a spiritual, this thing, the Unanubandha has separated already. So it's important that you also separate yourself a little, like on a maybe on a mental level, you have to start detaching because then whatever happens is the child's responsibility in itself. That is why he said even in our rituals, if there is a death of a child, then after 21 years a parent is not supposed to do anything, but only children are supposed to do for the parents, like the rituals and all of that. That is what he mentioned. I remember that. The point that stuck with me was this 6 to 21 years while at this thing. And as I was reflecting on my own life, I felt yes, I started becoming like even children start becoming a little detached. They start rebelling and things like that, right? Like when we turn 20s and 21s in our this thing. So I think that bond is separating somewhere, and that's how we also have to learn that detachment, what he talked about, which is in alignment with what we read today also. So yeah, just wanted to add that. Anyone else wants to say, share something? Rajesh, Viren, yeah, Viren.
Yeah. So from the first part, I think we have discussed more on the second part of reading for the parent-child relationship today. For the first part, like expectation, I want to share one real life experience I have. Like so, I have a love marriage, and there is always misalignment between like parents and wives whenever there is a love marriage because they seems to have a different value set of values, and the only problems came in life like it's about expectation. So wife was sharing that this is not being done, this is not happening, so this is expectation. And also mother was also asking like uh, your wife is not doing this is not happening very well. So what I have done, so I discuss both at the same time to keep this besides. Like, do not tell me that this is not being fulfilled. Rather than start telling each other that what is your expectation, right? So, and in the meanwhile, if you are not comfortable to share with each other, say to me. So for sometimes it started like wife sharing with me that this is my expectation. You tell to mother. So I was telling to her. Then mother tells that this is my expectation. You tell to your wife. So I have done that. Sometimes it happens going smoothly. And they started talking to each other. And now it's aligned. So expectation is good, but not good when we are thinking in our mind that this is expectation. We need to communicate like this is my expectation. It's simple. So that is my perspective on this.
Wow, yeah, very well handled. Because I feel this is this is every family, like somewhere or the other this happens, and I feel sometimes it's not so well handled because I feel men sometimes go very withdrawn in these situations in the family. I've seen that happen, and then it becomes difficult, even difficult. I feel you have handled it very well, and that's what he was talking about, right? That expectation comes from that culture that we have of reward and punishment in the beginning of the chapter. So even I remembered that point. Yeah, we like it because we're conditioned that way, that only to do good things when we get rewards, and it's okay if we are not getting a reward, or even if we are not getting punishment, you can do whatever. So yeah, that part. So very true. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Viren. I love how you share your own shares and connect with it, whatever we read. So that's very beautiful. It helps us understand and deeper into real life example through real life examples. So thank you for that. Anything you want to add? Anything more?
No, not from me.
Virenji, applause to you for this wonderful response to your wife and mother. And as Mansi said, that it is happening in almost every household, and it is not handled so well by the male in the house. And ऐसा सिर्फ love marriage में नहीं होता. It's not happening only in love marriage. Even the bride chosen by the parents themselves is questioned sometimes. It is not because she is coming from different background or something. It is because the individual differences, and how you said that they were not expressing their expectations. So when the male of the house is not taking the responsibility and acts withdrawn, it is our turn to do this ourselves, because this was happening to me also. And what I did was I started expressing my expectations. At the in the beginning, she was not very happy when I started sharing my expectations. Later on, she realized that this is a good way, and she also started sharing her expectations. And as Viren said, it became smooth, and we both are happy together.
Yeah, it's basically sometimes many a times expectations are not expressed, right? That creates so many problems in any relationship for that matter, not just mother-in-law and daughter-in-law, but for anyone, even spouses. Like when the expectations are not expressed properly and we just
Hmm.
try living with assumptions, I think that creates a lot of problems most of the cases.
True, true. Even spouse, even mother, daughter, or son, father, every relationship, we can see this. When we are not telling out what we want and what are our boundaries, when we get hurt, it becomes difficult.
Yes, and I feel expressing expectations and expecting them to be fulfilled is are two different things. So like
Yes, yes.
this
You
also
can
is very
express
important.
and expect that they may not get fulfilled, but you can express so that you are now
Yeah.
they are aware that what you want. Then it is a different thing whether they fulfill it or not.
Yeah, because I've seen many a times when people express, they expect it to be fulfilled, and if they're not fulfilled, then they get agitated. Then that is also that also needs to be having an awareness that this may not get fulfilled. Just because I have expressed it does not mean that it has to be fulfilled. Then it becomes control. So there are thin lines which if everyone is mindful enough and I feel flexible enough and feel the relationship is more important than our own needs and egos, then I feel it all works out well. If we give importance to the relation or the other person equally. So yeah, nice way. The topic got channelized to such a different this thing altogether. It's nice. So yeah, anyone wants to add something more? Rajesh, you want to say something, add something, or we can even close for today. Then otherwise, we'll finish this third day. I think tomorrow maybe. Then let's see. We'll start with the fourth one, or however, like we'll go with the flow. I Okay, I think we are done. So I'll just put in the summary of our discussion and then we'll continue the reading from wherever we stop from tomorrow and we'll go on. Yeah. Thank you everyone. See you all tomorrow. Bye
Thank
bye.
you all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Mansi. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Stay
everyone.
blessed. Bye.
Bye bye.